me, amigos, and I thought we might have a little discussion about the moon, since we have a beautiful new moon coming up in Aries on Wednesday, the 10th of April. And this particular moon phase is the initiation of all of our growth cycles for the zodiacal year ahead. And so whatever we initiate with this new moon has the potential to become a very powerful theme in our lives. And this is a particularly interesting new moon because it is happening in conjunction with those two traveling planets that we have closest to the Earth, basically Mars and Venus. So this particular configuration that happens at about 2:45 in the morning Central Standard Time on the 10th will involve the Sun and the Moon in conjunction, along with the planets Mars and Venus. So very, very harmonious and exciting potential as we slowly glide in the direction of this new moon. Now, for those of you who are not entirely familiar with all the different phases of the moon and the astrological observations and beliefs, most astrologers who are studied at the craft believe that our life has a multitude of cycles, but one of the most important cycles is the cycle of the moon. And with the new moon, we initiate a new theme or a new variation or a new contract that we have made with ourselves for the next 28-day cycle. Now, this can also have an imprint on the next 12-month cycle, the solar year, as well as long-term life cycles if we're doing it in association with planets like Jupiter or Saturn or any of the big, heavy outer planets, including Uranus. And thankfully, this new moon cycle that we're about to initiate is happening well over 10 degrees away from Uranus's activity in the sign of Aries. So we don't have to worry about the Uranian disruption factor coming into play with this new moon initiation period. Now, as we watch the moon progress, we'll observe it go from the beginnings, the new moon, which is a dark night, and then we grow into the full moon. And as we arrive at fullness, that's when we expect to see those first actual indicators of manifestation. That's the peak, the high point of the cycle. And then as the moon wanes and goes back to the new moon cycle, we encounter a brief period about, I use a 30-degree ledger for my own interpretation, but a lot of astrologers just figure 24 hours before the new moon. We have that period of the dark of the moon, and that is the period of disintegration. So, whatever it is that you have set into force, that initial desire, that initial theme, and whatever it is that you have initiated is going to slowly dissolve over that passage from the last stages of the waning full moon into the early stages of the next new moon, which will fall in the next sign. The new moon that is coming up will be happening in Aries, and the next new moon will be occurring in Taurus. So this is a good time to prepare the land. You know, it's springtime, and this is a season for pulling weeds, turning the soil, and getting things prepared to plant the seeds. So whatever it is that you are seeking to initiate, do your ritual after the moon has actually started to wax toward the full cycle. In other words, don't do any intention setting while the moon is in the dark of the moon or that period of disintegration, because that kind of gets flushed out as the old surrenders to the new. So, in addition to those little tidbits, there are some other interesting things about the moon that I have pondered for years and have been a source of curiosity and often a source of humor for me. But once we really start observing the activity in the heavens, we begin to realize that there obviously is some greater design to everything that's going on around us. And one of the most immediate things we can reference is the activity of the moon. Now, the new moon, like I said, it is a period of initiation, and it is that push forward. And if you've ever gone out in the morning at 8 or 9 or 10 a.m. and looked up in the sky and seen that little silvery wisp, that crest of the moon in the sky, then you know that the new moon is in the initiation period. It's going to continue to grow. Now, the new moon will only be observable for a few hours in the evening in the darkened sky, because during the day, as the moon is going through the first 3 or 4 days of renewal, it rises closer to sunrise, and then it sets almost at sunset. So if you're out there looking for the new moon in the sky, you're going to have to do it during the day to really get that first peak at that initial crescent that indicates the growth of the new period. Now, when the moon hits the full, of course, it rises with the sunset. And that's when we have that glorious, reflective full moon that glides through the night and offers us a passage of illumination as we journey through the world here of mere mortals, I guess you could say. Another interesting fact about the moon is that it always has its face facing the Earth. In other words, it rotates at a 27-day pace, almost 28 days, in exact conjunction to its rotation around the Earth. So there is always one side of the moon that is visible to we Earthlings, and the dark side, or the back side of the moon, is always pointing out into the cosmos. Now, really, when you start thinking about it, there obviously is something that occurred to create these apparent synchronicities in the movement of the moon, this glorious dance that goes on in the heavens. And it's fascinating to observe it because, again, it's so close to us. We can look up in the night sky and generally be able to identify what phase of the process of waxing or waning the moon is going through just by getting a glimpse. And in addition, more and more scientific evidence keeps coming up about the impact the moon has on the Earth. And of course, it affects the tidal swing. If it were not for the continents, if we were an entirely waterborne planet, then there would be an even greater rise of tide. And our little planet would really go through kind of a magical undulation of being stretched and then returned to its original shape. But thank heavens, the continents that we live on kind of buffer that to some degree. But the thing that a lot of people are not aware of is that the moon is also affected by the Earth. Our tidal swings do have an impact on the moon's orbit, and it is slowing down infinitesimally dynamic of the moon's journey around the Earth. And as a result of that, it's pushing the moon a little bit further and further away from the Earth. But it'll probably be 3 or 4 billion years before we can really actually observe that to any great degree. But the moon is a fascinating element of astrology. And In addition to the sun, it is, symbolic of the two major parts of our own consciousness, the sun being the conscious mind and the higher consciousness of our collective mind, and the moon being the reflective, the hidden part of our personal nature. So with this wonderful new moon coming up just a couple of days from now, be patient and honor that period of disintegration on the 9th. That's also a good time to, get rid of the cobwebs in the house, sweep the floors, and dust out the rugs, and get rid of any garbage that's collected in various spots around the house where it's inclined to collect, like kitchens and bathrooms. And then prepare for the new moon day, April 10th, 2013. Anytime after 3 a.m., you want to cast your intention into the universe with the expectation of making impressions like ripples across the ocean of consciousness. So yes, this is a lovely new moon cycle of planting and expectation of a good year. So prepare yourselves and then cast your command out into the universe, summoning the things that you're seeking and harmonizing the way that you flow with the cycles of nature, the cycles of the universe, and the cycles of your life. Well, mi amigos, that was just a brief update on what's happening this week that is of significance as far as planetary aspects. The only other thing I'll mention is that Chiron will be in a very, very nice, tight sextile to the planet Pluto. It's continuing its passage there. And this is, again, an opportunity to manifest healing and forgiveness and regeneration. Combining the two elements, the Chiron-Pluto sextile and this foursome having this divine dance around the sun, moon, Mars, and Venus in Aries, you should be able to do a lot of healing. You should be able to propel yourself forward and to really have fun with your life. Get out there, share the love, pass the love around, and I'll be chatting with you soon.